One of the things that I think is challenging us in defining service learning is that it looks like a lot of other experiential learning practices. And we often get the question of, what's the difference between community service and service learning? Or isn't service learning the same thing as student volunteering or an internship? Well, it is true that internships and community service are very similar to service learning, but there are some very distinguishing features that I think make service learning a unique practice. For example, it is important to understand the distinction by looking at how community service and service learning and internships are different. And there are two foundational continua that help define this distinction. The first continuum focuses on who is the primary intended beneficiary of the activity. On the one hand, it could be the recipient. On the other hand, it could be the provider of the activity. And the other continuum is, what is the focus or purpose of the activity? Is it on providing a service, or is it on learning? And by considering these two continua, we can understand how service learning, community service, internships, and other kinds of experiential learning activities are distinct. So let's take community service and volunteer programs for example. The primary intended beneficiary of community service and volunteer activities is the recipient. Surely a provider will benefit from that experience, but the primary intended beneficiary, these are all very important words, primary intended beneficiary is the recipient. And if we look at what the focus or the purpose of the experience is, the focus is on providing and delivering a service. Surely we might learn from those experiences, but the focus is on the service. On the other hand, if we look at internships or field studies activities, the primary intended beneficiary is the provider of that activity, the student, for example. Surely others might benefit from that experience, those that are receiving the student's intern work, but the primary intended beneficiary is the student. And the focus is on student learning. The student may be providing a service, but the focus is on enhancing student learning. Service learning is set up intentionally to benefit both the provider and the recipient, in that both the provider and the recipient are primary intended beneficiaries. And it's also set up to focus both on providing a service and on learning, that the goal is to balance the service and learning activities. In this regard, we often call service learning a balanced approach to experiential education.